Welcome to the Multiverse Fundraiser, everyone. I am Willow Skylor. With me today is so many great cosplayers, and I cannot wait to meet them all. So we got... Hi, how's it going?
Good. Hi, how are you?
Good. All right. Okay.
I'm underdressed.
This should all be all the cosplayers. All right. So let's start with Robin. Who are you, and how did you get started with cosplay?
All right. So my name is Douglas, and how I got into cosplay was many years ago. I did a Comic-Con, and I ran into someone there who was like, "Yo, that's a great costume," and I was like, "Thanks." Fast forward, I met a friend named Kelly who got me into some charity groups, and I've continued it since.
Awesome. All right, Emperor Palpatine.
Good morning. I actually got into cosplay, about 10 years ago. I was at an event here locally where the 501st Legion was one of the local science museums had a sci-fi family day, and I started talking to them and started to realize that, hey, I could do this too. And so kind of one thing led to another, and it's an addictive substance. You start off with one, and now you've got, costumes. I think I have over 20 now. It's just crazy. And so. Willow, I think you're still on mute.
Yeah, sorry.
It keeps going back that way.
My husband's gaming in the background, so I'm trying very hard to not compete with him. Valerie, how did you get into cosplay?
I'm the weirdo who's been doing this since before cosplay was a word, even in Japanese. I talked my dad into taking me to StarCon Denver back in 1981. I saw an announcement for it after Doctor Who on our local PBS station. And I went on Saturday and I saw grown-ups in costumes wandering around. And I'm like, I have found my people. And I have been there ever since.
All right. We have someone else joining us. Mila, how's it going?
Hey, I'm like super washed out.
Oh no, that's okay.
If I shake my face, you can see me a little bit. Maybe if I lower my blinds, because I'm like, there we go. I apologize.
You look amazing.
I apologize. I told you I would do my whole kit and caboodle for my Wonder Woman suit, but alas, I'm a single mom, so I was running around like a crazy person trying to set him up for success, and I was like, well. Leather Wonder Woman jacket it is. So
that's fine.
But I got the tiara on. So.
Hey, I'm entirely incognito. So.
There we
Tell
go.
us about you. Tell us about yourself and how'd you get into cosplay?
Oh man, I'm a little bit behind Valerie. I was doing it along the yesteryear generation. My uncle invited me to a convention when I was 18. He's very strategic in his process and when and where he invites me for certain things. That was a MegaCon back in I don't even know when, and I debuted as Supergirl. At the time, I was also working for Walt Disney World and was very adjusted and trained, seasoned to working with little kids. I was doing character performing for the company. And so combining Supergirl, seeing all the little kids dressed up, being in the world of my uncle with comic books and whatnot, it just was a beautiful marriage. I don't know if you can see my cat. He's walking right in front of me. Anyway, it was a beautiful marriage for me in the cosplay world that now fast forwarding, 13 years. Now I'm working with Toys for Tots and doing cosplay for them. And among many other projects that I'm trying to launch this year for kids. So it's very
fantastic
addicting to go with Space Pope costume.
That's awesome. So I started cosplaying back in 2019 was pretty much my first time that I walked into a convention. I remember I kind of did cosplay before, but it wasn't like a big thing. Halloween was definitely my time to shine. It's like, I'm going to be a superhero this year or a zombie or something. And I try to create as close to certain movies or characters as I could get it with limited, amount of, supplies. So I apologize. Again, my husband's gaming, so but yeah, he when I was walking around one day around my neighborhood and I saw a sign up at one of the local game shops that, cosplay contest, convention, this is all our guests. And I'm just like, wait, we have a convention here? Why am I only finding about this now? So of course I'm just like, okay, Adam West is going to show up and I can only go for one day. So let's make this good. So yeah, I ended up cosplaying as like a very comfortable version of Black Cat. And, and I have a figurine of her in like a tank top and a pair of tights and like the fur around the boots and stuff like that. So I bought myself like a go-go boot covers and put fur on top. And yeah, that was my costume for the day.
Nice. I love that. Makeshift costumes are sometimes the best creations that we can come up
They
with.
really are. And sometimes they will get the best reaction for them, and they can be comfortable, and it's just the best.
You can
and
plan
kids,
you can plan all year for a costume, and then all of a sudden someone out of nowhere will come out with like a closet cosplay or something and be like, that's the winner.
Right. Because there's an essence of feeling how much thought and heart, creativity went into it.
Yeah.
I'm a hybrid of having someone build me something and then makeshifting last minute. So, and these are more fun. These projects are a lot more fun because it's that you're confined in the, you have an obstruction of how do I make this? And then it really catapults that creativity that all of us adore from the creators. And then we get to have a little moment with it. So.
Yeah.
Well, and it gives you, on our topic, it gives you a moment with the kids. Because I mean, I've been, ad hocing costumes since I was yay high. I remember there was one time we had our library summer reading program had a sci-fi theme, and I had forgotten that the final celebration of the summer reading program was going to have costume contest. And it was like 1978, and I happened to be wearing this little shirt with the hood on it, and I had big old honking glasses, and so I decided that I was the Galactic Goggle Jogger. I just made that up on the spot. I didn't even play. I was already at the event. So kids need to start off right away knowing that whatever they come up with, somebody's going to appreciate.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I love it.
I'm very much kind of a last minute cosplayer. I will just throw stuff on. I'm like, okay, I'm a Green Lantern today, kind of thing. And then there was one time where I kind of mixed a furry character in with my cosplay as well. And I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna go as a Green Lantern squirrel just for the heck of it. And people were coming up to me, oh, are you this character? I'm like, I just put on a tail and ears.
Yes, I am whatever you need me to be. I'm here for it.
But that's absolutely something that the kids can look at and say, hey, I can do that. Where, my 450 hours of Padme, they're just going to look at and go, which is also fun. But I love having somebody they look at and say, hey, I have something in my closet that looks like that. I could do this too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that. And they get to be proud of it. They get to be proud of their creation. And with my experience with little ones, they love to talk about it, rather than the store-bought situation, which of no prejudice or anything. When the little one's like, I put this here because it's for this reason, and then I super glued this and I burnt my finger, and then and then I was sewing this. My mom taught me how to sew, and this didn't fit right, so then we just put it to the side. It's just it's a whole story time, and you just get to sit there and talk with them about their amazing creation, and it's so funny. They're so funny.
And they're the
then
ones
you
who'll be
get to
ready
talk
for
about
prejudging when they grow up.
Right. Exactly.
So I hear the Space Pope has a fun story for us.
It's probably the story of how the name came about. And I was at a C2E2, and one of the other costumes I do is Q from Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Oh, awesome.
And in his judge, medieval looking judge robe, and have a really cool, necklace that he wears there and so forth. And of course, not everybody knows who that character is. And I was walking in the costume through the con, and this little boy taps his mom on the shoulder and goes, "Hey, Mom, check it out! Look, it's the Space Pope." And I thought,
Nice.
so there's the name. So I'm like, I literally was just laughing. It was just perfect. So there you go.
It's declared by the mouth of me.
And Doug, do you have any great moments where you've had, children run up to you and just adore your costume? And...
Oh yeah, multiple. My very first con ever, I did a makeshift Robin costume, and I'm thinking, all right, not that great. Not even 10 minutes in, this little kid dressed as Robin sees me and yells, "It's Robin!" And immediately ran over and wanted a photo. And Mom's like, "Is it okay?" I'm like, yes, yes, yes. And my one friend, she had like a tear in her eye because she was like, "This is the most amazing thing I've ever seen." And I was just like, it was fun. For like that little kid, he honestly thought I was Robin. And it was just great to see him have a smile on his face. And that was one fun story. Or the other one, kind of how the Space Pope came about, was in one of my groups, we have a guy who does Alfred. And we were doing this event, and this kid looks at him and goes, "It's Mr. Monopoly." We burst out laughing, and ever since then, we don't call him Alfred, we call him Mr. Monopoly, because he literally looks like Mr. Monopoly.
Oh, that's
awesome.
It's nice beef.
It was.
I enjoy going to different charity events, and one of my friends held this one event where it was just a photo shoot, dinner photo shoot. We watch movies, whatever. Those events are one of my favorites as well. There was one guy that dressed up as Alfred, and literally, like all the groups that were there, like we had Batman, I was dressed up as my Tomb Raider character, and then there was like a couple other groups, but Alfred just fit with every little group.
Every group has a rich person with a butler.
That's awesome.
Correction. They always
bankrolls the group.
Yeah, exactly.
We wouldn't get very far.
But yeah, that was like one of those moments where it's like our unplanned costumes that it just emerged together as one group, and we did another video shoot where we just took a song and just made it a Batman theme, and we had the police show up trying to figure out what we were doing, and they wanted pictures with us, and so yeah. Those moments are just hilarious where it's like they're like, "What are you guys doing? We're curious, and we're nerds too." So, have you guys had moments like that where the police showed up, or yeah?
Oh yeah, we had an event, and the police came later, but they were scheduled, but they didn't see the superheroes. So as soon as they came in, they like stopped and they stared at us, and they're like, "What's going on?" And we're like, "Hey, hi." And then they go, "Do you want a photo on the armored Jeep?" And of course, everyone's like, "Oh," and then you have me going, "Yeah." So there's a photo of me like on top of their armored vehicle, just going crazy.
That's
and
awesome.
the guy who does Batman's just looking up like, "What are you doing?"
Well, and their own events. I mean, there's DuPage Sheriff has a safety day every year. That's just this huge community event that I've done with both Customers with a Cause and with the 501st and Rebel Legion. And that was, if anybody follows my social media, may have seen pictures of Ray climbing the climbing tower. That was the day I did that. They had their little remote control robot out there that, oh my gosh, the stormtroopers were having a field day with. And, and they don't get the chance to be big kids very often. And a lot of them, they have kids. A lot of them are in our organizations. And, when they get out and have their community events or like the national night out, I think I'm sure there's a certain element of, okay, these people are out here in a costume and the kids are paying attention to them, but also they get to play too.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't have a lot. I just recently was asked by a military sergeant to go and visit a family that had lost one of the parents, and that specific parent was a part of his group. I don't know the terminology of the military, but and that was a lot of fun being able to go visit the boys. It was both were under 11, and that was a lot of fun. But I think one of my favorite experiences with the police specifically, was during the Black Lives Matter of 2020, that whole apocalyptic year. And I had an epiphany hit me, and I actually talked to my uncle about it, and I felt like I needed his permission. I don't know if you're aware, but my uncle is George Perez.
Okay.
And so I chit chatted with him, and I was like, this is something important to me personally, but I had a thought come to me that instead of going to my local march just as me, what if I kind of went as a hybrid, wearing pants, some dance tights, that are thicker and whatnot, just to give a little bit more modesty to Wonder Woman's look for such a delicate situation, and wearing her bodice. And it wound up being one of my favorite experiences for two reasons. One, there was this little girl who was hugging, like strapped on to her mom's thigh, because that's a little nerve-wracking going to a march. It's a lot of people, it's a lot of energy, and she was so intimidated. And I looked over and I spotted her. We locked eyes throughout the whole presentation, and then she kept seeing me lift my shield, and my shield had a message on it for I stand with those who stand for justice and things of that nature. And she wound up, I guess just from watching Wonder Woman lift her shield for the huzzah moments, she asked for her mom's sign, and she would do it with me. And so she went from being really scared and intimidated to watching an icon of a sort being brave and standing up for something, and then she was able to do it. It was just such an iconic moment for me. I was like, I don't know if I showed up for her as Wonder Woman today or not, and there was no photo ops or anything like that, but like that one little girl of color was just so powerful. And then as I was walking home, this other mom on the other side of the road was like, "Hey, Wonder Woman." She had a daughter with her, and she's like, "See, Wonder Woman stands up for, whatever it was that she said." And then literally, as I'm trying to get into my house, like all these cops stopped me, segued into the police scenario, and they're like, "Wonder Woman, can we have a picture?" It's like, yeah, let's do it. So that's one of my prized possessions, is a photo of all of our local policemen with Wonder Woman and the sign of I stand with those who stand for justice. It was really special. But I wanted to ask my uncle, because of his career and relationship with Wonder Woman, I was like, would this be something that you think as a writer, artist of Wonder Woman, that she would demonstrate for, that she'd show up for? And he said, "Mila, I've never been more proud of you. Go." And I was like,
I'm pretty sure he's drawn scenes like that.
Yeah,
absolutely. I felt like in my gut, I was like, I need the creator's permission.
That's definitely life imitating art, though, and that's what us cosplayers are like striving to do. And when it comes to the superheroes, and I'm a huge superhero fan. I love dressing up as superheroes, and there was one time where I was dressed up as Princess Leia, and I was at a gaming convention, and this one kid comes through the door, and she barely got her jacket off to come give me a hug, and she goes, "You're my favorite princess." I'm just like, this is the greatest moment ever.
It really is. I mean, you get so many of those. I think my favorite has to be at the Superman celebration in Metropolis a few years ago.
Yeah.
I was out a Supergirl, and I had taken pictures with a few little kids, and then it was a couple of reasons it was fun. It was really the first time my husband saw me interacting with kids in costume, because he'll hear me describe it. He's like, "Oh, okay, now I see what this is." But this little girl, probably about 4 or 5, I'm suddenly attached to my leg, and I hear this, "You're my favorite you're my favorite superhero."
Just magnetized, right? She wouldn't let go.
Well, and she started to say princess, and she says, it's Kara. She's kind of both.
Yeah.
And I had the little interaction with her, and then I turn around and Gwenda Bond is behind me. She was there. She had just released the Lois Lane book that she had written, and she went, "That's the cutest thing I've ever seen." I'm like, okay, this day rocks. And you get so many of those moments. I mean, you tell people you volunteer and it's for and they're like, "Oh, you raise the money, that's cool," and it is, and it's great, and I love saying we made X amount of money for Make-A-Wish or whatever. But for me, it's about those interactions with the kids, and especially like my favorite are the library events, because you get the kids at those who might not be able to go do something else. And I was the kid who thought Disney was for rich people. I have been to Disneyland once. I was 45. And these kids are, they have classmates who go every year. They get to have that experience. They get to interact with us in a way that they're not going to get to do anywhere else.
For sure.
Yeah. I don't do much cosplaying at hospitals because we up here in Canada we have strict rules about that. But I know I'm sure a lot of you have done the cosplaying at hospitals. And what's your initial feeling doing stuff like that when you see like kids in cancer wards or whatever? Like how do you guys not become so emotional seeing all that?
I've done a lot of hospital visits at children, and it's tough, but in my mind, they're the true heroes. And unfortunately, I know what a lot of them go through. As a couple of years ago, I was diagnosed with cancer, so I can kind of relate with them. And I always tell them, "You're going to make it. You're going to just fight through it. You're the true superhero." I usually then tell the parents, "Don't worry. Doctors know what they're doing." It's tough. There are times where, me and someone else will have to step out of the room because it's just too much. But it's just, it's tough. But I always tell myself they're the true heroes, because when we walk in, they smile, they're excited, they're happy. And, it's just like the world for them is, it's a mess. But yet when they see us, they're happy. They put on a happy face and they have like the energy. And I'm just like, like I said, they're the true heroes. I mean, the fact that they are happy to see us.
And you have the child life staff to help you out. The best advice they almost always tell us, you're here to give them a moment away from this and not necessarily talk about why they're here or what's going on. So for me, it's easy to just have that moment of, as I would with any other kid, because that's what they need.
Yeah.
They had that experience of being, for that kind of takes them out of that space for that little bit of time. And most of the hospital visits I've done have been with 501st Rebel Legion. And so usually you'll always get, when we're changing, somebody's like, "Oh, I don't know how you could do this as a face character. I'm going to be crying in my bucket." And I'm like, these kids are so happy. I'll cry all the way home after I think about it.
Right.
But in the moment, you're just having fun with them.
One thing I would add to that is that I think a lot of people don't realize that a lot of these kids live at the hospital for months, years. And what do they do there? Well, they watch their favorite characters. So it's really good to kind of brush up on the history of your character. I remember one time I was in my Star-Lord costume for an event there, and this little boy literally knew everything about Star-Lord and started quizzing me, and I was like, oh my gosh. So I think, again, it's something that people don't realize, that again, that's these kids, really get
Yeah.
to know love a lot of these characters because they're kind of stuck in a building a lot for a very long time.
Yeah, it's kind of on top of the usual experience of, the kids between probably about 9 and 12, you get that they're just starting to figure out that you're a person in a costume, and they want to kind of flex their I'm starting to grow up muscles and be cool and be smart. We had a little girl, and the child life specialist warned us she was 12 going on 37. And we got up to her room, and she's like, oh, I mean, just the epitome of I am much too cool for this, and why are you doing this? And then BB-8 rolled up, and she went, BB-8! She had a blast. It was the best. Yeah, and I've never been so happy to be upstaged by a droid, because the child life specialist is like, if you don't crack our shell, it's okay. She's like that. She's got the cynical thing going on, and just she'll still be happy to see you. She just won't admit it. But that droid rolled up, and boom, she was like a little kid.
We all have that geek out moment where we see other cosplayers, and we like I'm a huge fangirl, and as Mila, as soon as I saw you pop up, I'm just like, but I will do that with even my own friends.
Me too.
Where
Oh yeah,
I'm such a toddler. Literally, for when I go to conventions, I'm like, oh my gosh, like panic attack. The very first time when I did Star Wars weekends as a guest, I literally cried walking through because it was like Audrey's Municipal Band happening, and I was like, it's too much, because I was a Star Wars baby. First and foremost, wanted to be Luke Skywalker and Leia at the same time. I was that little girl. I was like, I want best of both worlds, and it will happen. Anyway, so I understand. I'm that girl too. Like, my uncle and I are ridiculous when we're together, just walking the floor, because he fanboys over these things and I fangirl, and we just throw each other our phones to take pictures. Oh, we're a sight to see when we're just like, walking the floor. It's fun. It's a good time.
I've seen it. It's fun.
Yeah, my husband is my handler. And like he's often told me, oh, I want to get into cosplay, and so I'll be like, okay, so we can do Jane Cobb for you. We can do like all these different other gruff type characters. He wants to do a Star Wars character, and it's like, okay, so let's try to plan this out. And then of course she's like backs out at the last minute, and it's like, but.
Right.
Well, Mila, my husband occasionally does Brainy, so he has definitely experienced you guys firsthand.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well,
the Legion of Superheroes will make
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, Legion of Superheroes will definitely make him geek out. Ding dong.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
We forgot the
I have my great grandfather's antique clock over here that I stopped winding the striker on for exactly that reason.
Nice.
That was smart.
Very nice.
It took me a while to figure out that I could do that.
They're tricky
But,
that way.
and I think that that's kind of our secret weapon, that we can, if we still do that, it's because people new to the organizations will come and they're like, oh, you're so easy with the kids. How do you do it? I'm like, we're just playing make believe. Just put yourself back in that space. You may be out of practice. Some of us aren't out of practice because we just never stopped, but you can find it again.
Yeah. So do you guys have any advice for like new cosplayers that are just getting into the cosplay hobby?
Pick characters that you love. Because if you don't love them, you're not going to have the energy to get through the build.
Mm-hmm.
You got to have the love.
Absolutely.
And if you're getting into the volunteer angle specifically, definitely that applies, because you want to be someone like Fred said, if you need to know who they are top to bottom, because the kids will. They're going to gravitate to their favorites, and they're going to ask you, my favorite conversation I ever had with kids, and it's not necessarily even knowing the facts about the character, but how they would react to things. I love being with Ray and being new to everything. We did a walk, and we were going across a bridge, and kids were trying to tell me that the eels in the river were electric, which seemed very unlikely in downtown Naperville, but Ray didn't know that. So they're explaining to her about these animals that not only live in the water, but they will shock you. And it was just the best.
I love
And
it.
so stuff like that, just be, and so that's about the performance side, and don't be worried about your costume being perfect, whether you make it, whether you buy it. And that's going to be different from one group to another. If you're coming into the Legions, they were founded for the purpose of making screen accurate costumes, and the charity work came a little after. So the emphasis is a little different there. But you come in to say costumers with a cause, if it's recognizable as a child-friendly character, you're good. We have a guy who does Buzz Light, who for like somebody finally gave him an upgrade, but for like 3 years he was doing Buzz Lightyear in a Halloween costume with the inflatable wings. And at every single event, the kids loved him the best because he was Buzz.
Yeah.
So I almost think that this side of the hobby is one of the best for new people to get into, because every organization is made up of people. Everywhere there's people, there's drama. You're not going to be free of it anywhere.
No.
But I think there is less of it in this part of the hobby than in a lot of others. You're not going to run into as much of the competition. You're not going to run into as much of the negativity that we're trying to fight in other areas of the hobby. But I think in this one, we're fighting it the hardest because we have something else besides just the presentation and the love of the work itself that we're here for. And I think that's a really great way for new people to come in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've covered some really great points about the costuming, the performance, what's your angle. And then another thing I would say is find your cosplay family.
Absolutely.
Go to the conventions and get to know people, go to Facebook groups, Instagram, and just reach out. I mean, you have an open invitation for me. If you ever just need a friend, or if you want some conversation about questions that you have, I'm open to that, because I've been there. I've been there where I was alone at a convention or an event or whatever it was. And, it's so much better when you have a friend at least, or a whole family. And so that would be my 2 cents is find your Lego blocks that connect to you, because then you have a support system, and you have people to reach out to for specific things that you might need to know or practice with. So going with Valerie, if you're going toward the angle of charity work and performance, then you have someone to role play with, to practice how to interact with kids. You can also watch a friend, which is really helpful for me, to watch how other people interact, so on and so forth, and kind of pick up what they do and add it to my toolkit, if you will. So, get your family.
So we got a message from Trish. Thank you, Willow, for sharing. The virtual con means a lot to our disabled house. You are so very welcome. And that's another thing that I'm huge into is cosplaying. Like I believe in cosplays for everyone. And even if you are disabled, you can still make a fantastic cosplay. Like you can use it's like your crutches as props, and you can use your Mila. You have something to say to add to that?
Yes, I do. One of my very favorite. I have a lot. All of us have so many favorite memories, but it was Trish or Trisha.
Trish. Yeah.
Trish. So one of my very favorite memories is of one of my very early conventions, and this little one was in a wheelchair and a foot cast and an arm cast. Like just all over the place, just not, he was disabled for anything. And he caught my eye because I think his posse that was within his family was out, maybe 10 feet away from him doing pictures or whatever. And he was just kind of sitting there. But he was wearing a Superman shirt and blue shorts and whatever it was. And he just looked so melancholy. I mean, who wouldn't feel melancholy at a convention surrounded by everybody as a kid, completely strapped to a wheelchair and casts? And and I walked over. I happened to be Supergirl, coincidentally. And the whole conversation, kind of to support what others have said, we were just talking about how we both have been banged up and bruised and broken. I had died a few times and snapped back. We just talked about, we just trip a lot. It takes a lot of practice to become super. Happens to the best of us. And that was that conversation because, he had been in casts, meaning he broke a bone, so on and so forth. But when it concerns permanently disabled or born this beautiful way, supporting Valerie and also Kelly Phoenix, that and Space Pope, it's that intuition as a performer. If they need you to create a whole new world and share that moment with them, or if you need to sit in their world with them, and that in itself is the magic. And whenever they want to cosplay, usually you're making a whole new world, because they put that effort in there. And so it's just,
and building on that, that's the reason it's important to have members with disabilities. It reminds me a little bit of a story of one of our customers with a cause members who has, chronic illness, is a part-time wheelchair user. And there was a teenage girl wheelchair user at an event that we went to, and she was sitting there. She was there as Wonder Woman, and she happened to be walking that day. But there are also days that she's out in her chair. She's usually Ariel, and she does that with her tail. But, she was talking with this girl about 14, 15 for probably 45 minutes. And they were trading stories about invisible disability, about the days that people, how people react when they see you stand up out of a wheelchair and call you a faker and all those things that nobody else could have had that conversation with that kid. And she had that conversation with Wonder Woman.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And it brings people encouragement. Like I've seen the cosplay bullying online, and I've even been bullied. I know how to handle situations like that because I've been bullied all my life, and it's just I become like so it's all about justice when it comes to bullies. It's like nobody will bully me in my circle, when I see other people getting bullied, I'm like, I become their protector. I'm like, no, you do not do this. So how do you guys handle your cosplaying bullies? If you guys have ever had one.
We electrocute them.
Adults.
I like that.
No quarter.
What I do is
kids. Go ahead.
You want to go first?
Go, Doug. Go.
All right, thank you. So what I do is if someone's bullying, if they're making a comment on that, I'll be like, all right, that's your opinion. If they try to keep pushing the thing, as silly as it sounds, I just block them on Facebook or Twitter because it's like, you know what? You're obviously just being toxic. I don't need that in my life. And one of my friends, I stood up for him. He's smaller than me, and he wanted to do Spider-Man. And someone made the comment, "Oh, you're too small to be Spider-Man." And I looked at them and I said, "So if he's Spider-Man, if he likes to do the character, let him do it. I don't see you making a costume or anything. So why are you trying to boss someone around when you're not even doing anything? If that makes sense."
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly how I feel about it too. And again, cosplay is for everyone, and I love this. Mike in a wheelchair as Mario.
That's great.
That is adorable. I've seen people turn their wheelchairs into TIE fighters, and there is a charity that exists specifically to do that builds cosplay wheelchairs for kids.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of it right now, but every year usually they do their big reveal at Dragon Con, and they'll put out, I guess they started doing it at San Diego, but they'll have 4 or 5 or 6 that are there. They'll bring together makers from all across the country and do this huge project, and people can nominate a particular child to be the beneficiary of this.
Yeah, I've seen them.
And again, it's people, because so much of their money is going to the child's care. this is not an opportunity that they have necessarily to do. You know, some families are able to get that creativity and do that for the kids themselves, and some people don't have anything left. And to see these kids, you know, just get into that new world.
And what are your guys' favorite material, or like, do you guys like working with Evafoam or Worbla for your costumes?
I'm mostly a sewist.
Yeah.
The non-sewing bits, I'll figure it out as I go.
I was gonna say something about bullying just before we moved on.
Oh yeah, sorry, go ahead.
It's for me, I'm so I hate bullying. I hate it so much. And so I have to work really hard not to be reactive, but be responsive.
Yeah.
And just because I feel that instinct, just like you, you've hit an electric fence, I want to electrify you. Or I want to send an electric shock to protect so-and-so. But it is a defense mechanism, or it's kill them with kindness. And either one of the, you know, it just depends on what's been said toward whom. I do agree with, like, if their only goal is to be toxic, best to just remove that completely, immediately. Don't toy with it.
Yeah.
Poisonous. Don't touch it. Don't respond to it. Treat it as poison, you know, because our heart and our mind are so, we're not all strong like some people. So just best to remove it. But also it could be a teaching moment for both people, of how to treat someone with kindness. Like, hey, you know, that's your opinion, I respect that, but if it's negative, please keep it to yourself, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
And I will say an experience I had with this concerning the march that I talked about as Wonder Woman for BLM. And I had a friend of mine from high school who is of color, a girlfriend of mine, and she reached out to me and she just hit me with all of this really negative, just condemning my reaction, or my actions. And I was like, whoa, I just didn't expect that, you know. And in some of the form of it might have been seen as bullying, you know. It wasn't constructively delivered. It was very much condemning, and for all of these opinionated reasons. But instead of reacting to it defensively for this particular case, I sat and I thought about, where is this person coming from? What is their background? What have they done?
Sorry, good.
It's okay. It was like the dawning from the gods. They're like, this is a good opportunity. But long story short, because I took a moment to reflect on the person who was saying the
You
negative
just want to
things,
like pick it up and move it somewhere.
just
Or,
throw
you know
it
what?
softly.
Yeah.
We wound up having one of the most constructive educational conversations, where I listened to her opinions and I was able to just sit with them. And because I did that, it became a catalyst to a YouTube channel I'm about to launch for children. Like,
Oh, nice.
I took a bullying situation, and it actually, it wasn't poisonous, as I said before, but there was something in there that sat with me that I wanted to be constructive with. And it really, I mean, I stayed up till probably 3 a.m. because of the things that she shared with me from a heartfelt place. Because I considered her source. I considered her, you know, and it really did. And I was able to build something from that experience that is, I'm really excited about, that's for children, and it incorporates the things that she taught me. So there's opportunities to flex different muscles when you're being bullied. Yeah.
I'm so proud of you doing that, by the way. That sounds.
It took a lot of breathing. It took a lot of breathing.
I don't know if I could be that that way. I am a very defensive person, and I react And if I don't have an out, I'm just I will
feel like
kind of do my
I've been
pen
there.
move.
I have been there.
But,
You
yeah.
need a pillow.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sorry. So how do we
No,
construct
no,
our
it's-
costumes go? Sorry, I just wanted to
No,
share that.
it's
that
it's
little
okay. I'm
memento.
glad that you shared that story. But yeah, what is your favorite material or stuff to use for your costumes?
This.
She's right.
This. This. Notice it's in arm's reach. This is my work table.
Okay.
Like, in arm's reach. And a needle and thread. Yep.
Yep.
Always my go-to.
Glue and needle and thread. That's me.
Yep, pretty much. And have you guys ever got so mad at a project that you just kind of rage quit on it and just threw it down?
I'm very fortunate that I have enough space in my house that I can put it away
Okay.
and come
Show
back
off.
to it when I have learned more. I'm old. There's a benefit to being old. I have a
There you
bigger
go.
house. And it's on that, it actually kind of ties back to the bullying thing. People are like, oh, I think there are people who think that, like, somebody flips a switch when you're 30 and you can't have fun with this stuff anymore. And I'm like, honey, that's just when you're starting to be able to do it.
I just
and
turned 30. My name is Mila Vella, and I approve of that message.
Yay. It's like, and even, and I'm finally at a point in my house, and I cleaned my basement enough that I can actually put it in a bin and get it out again when I have learned enough to look at it. So, and maybe I won't, and then it'll sit there in the bin.
That's kind of where I'm at right now with an Elvira costume. It's like I threw it down because working with sequins, bad decision.
Yeah. This is also why I'm usually working on 3 or 4 costumes at any given time, because if one starts to frustrate me, I can set it aside, work on a different one, and not lose my momentum.
You know the sequin frustration, right, Space Pope? You know all the glitter. I understand. As the Emperor, I know that you get it. I get it.
I was just gonna
Actually,
say,
I
like,
really want to see a blinged out Palpatine.
Oh my god! Show up for that
Do that?
assignment.
okay,
There's a
so
stormtrooper that's all blinged out. We have
Yeah,
a
that's what I was gonna.
yeah,
That's what I
that's
was
got all the
gonna say.
rhinestones.
We had,
Yes.
we had the
Bling trooper.
disco trooper, disco ball, as he usually calls it when he signs up for the 4th of July, because oh my god, that 4th of July parade in Bartlett is invariably just the most punishingly sunny day of the year, because there's no shade on a nearly 4-mile parade route. We call it the Death March for a reason. And so the year that he wore that for that, it started being referred to as a disco ball. We're like, you can't wear that anymore. We're all going to go blind. The thing is covered in 30,000 Swarovski crystals.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I think
It was a
couple of years.
stormtrooper
Right?
kit that he was about to retire, and his wife said, "Let me play with this." And 36, I think it was 9 months and 30,000 Swarovski crystals later.
Yeah.
Entire stormtrooper.
Yeah. At the
Do
toe.
any of you
my
guys?
word.
Do any of you guys suffer with the ADD? When you start a project, you must finish it. I suffer with that one, so I don't tend to get into that frustrated thing where I throw it and get angry at it. I get even more invested.
Hyper-focus.
Like I'm hyper focused, and then 12 hours later of no sleep and eating, I'm like, now it's done. But I haven't slept or eaten. That's kind of my downfall. So anybody out there who gets hyper focused and loses all track of time and life, I'm on your team. That's our team.
Yeah, there's a lot of that in the community. I think, and I think that's, to your point earlier of find your family, find your people.
Right?
I think each of those families, first of all, you can find your tribe, like the people who are all like that, like in the wider community, but also your little family needs that person, and needs the person who can't focus for anything, and needs a purpose, needs at least one of like every kind of mode of engagement with the work.
Yeah.
I'm unfortunately one of those cosplayers. Like I have costumes like everywhere around my house. Like there's pieces everywhere. And I will get like I'll try to plan out, okay, this is what I'm gonna, I'll like buy pieces throughout the year for a costume. And then like the week of the convention, I'll be like, okay,
Where
I need
are
to do
they?
this now.
Or worse, you show up to the convention, you're like, oh no,
Oh, yeah.
forgotten it. I've been there.
I've done that.
Yeah.
Worked so hard on it. And then
Or
it,
if you show up to a community event and one of the kids notices what you're missing, because they're the ones who'll notice. And then you have to come up with an explanation.
With the new Wonder Woman thing, she's got that arm cuff. I promptly lost that.
Mhm.
And then
I hate that thing so much.
The kids are like, where's your arm? Where's your arm cuff? Or where's your arm
Then
bracelet?
you got to come up with a story.
Right. And then I'm like, I flung it at someone.
You lost a dream battle.
Yeah. See, the nice thing
I
about
love
Diana is like
something
all
about
of her
my tornado
jewelry
bracelet.
can be weapons. Yep.
Yes. Yes, I can.
I learned that from the old series, much to the chagrin of the teenage volunteer in a haunted house I went through once when I was about 7, and I was dressed as the Queen of Hearts, and I had my mom's prom tiara, and this poor kid dressed as a vampire jumped out around the corner, and under the influence of Linda Carter, I grabbed the thing off my head, whacked him in the chest with it as hard as I could, and it broke in half.
That poor kid.
This poor kid was probably like 16. I'm sure he still remembers this insane
Mark.
child attacking him.
Rhinestone
Haunted
mark
house.
life across the face. Man. Do not
So-
try that
It was
at
on his
home,
chest,
kids.
but still.
So makeup for cosplay, Space Pope, you're amazing. Like, okay, do you make your prosthetic pieces, or did you?
No, I did not. There's a gentleman down in Alabama who this is actually a full head silicone mask.
Oh wow!
Wow.
So he does incredible work. But I did not make the mask. I don't quite have that talent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Something I'd love to learn, but it looks like
Right.
it takes somebody to kind of mentor you and some toxic chemicals that I don't know if I really want around the house.
Sure. And that's a great point, though. A lot of people do shaming or bullying, more so the shaming of like, you only buy your stuff, you buy everything. I've seen that a lot. And it's like, but the people who make it, their MO is not to wear it.
Yeah.
They love making it. They love the chemistry, literal chemistry. They love the science.
Literal.
Right, and they enjoyed the trial and error over and over and over again. You know, those are the sciencey people of creation that we depend upon to deliver props, to deliver costumes, so that people whose MO is to wear, conform, you know, have no stage fright. They get to wear it, you know, so it's a beautiful teamwork, and there's no shame at all. You know, if you bought something head to toe to support another artist, that's something to be proud of. You know, it's kind of like people are like, shop locally. Well, that's in its own self when you buy through
Shop
Etsy
in our
or
community.
websites.
Yeah.
Exactly, you're supporting another artist, so there's no
I
shame.
do have a lot of I make a lot of my own props, and I enjoy that part of cosplay too. It's the challenge of trying to figure out how to make something similar without a budget.
Yeah, no
I
kidding.
really enjoy that challenge. But you also have to know your limitations. And I know I couldn't make any of this, and I don't know makeup that well, so you kind of got to know where to draw.
I go on YouTube for all my makeup tutorials. If there is one skill that you can learn, it's usually like all the YouTubers have fantastic tutorials to teach you this stuff. Or you can even ask your cosplay friends. It's like, okay, is there a way that I can apply this to make the bruises look more realistic? Is there a way that LARPers is another get into LARPing, and you can learn all kinds of cool skills from them.
And it doesn't have to be expensive either.
No, it doesn't.
I'm cheap. Like I'm like embarrassingly cheap. Like I have never bought MAC or Sephora, none of that stuff. I cannot afford it. So for those out there that might feel intimidated by maybe some YouTubers or Instagrammers, whatever, who are like, this is the such and such company that has the best pigmentation. You can only get this look by this pigmentation, and this palette costs $375. Right. And I'm like, no, can't do that. So there I go to whatever, next door community store that has like Wet n Wild. I'm like, well, that looks good.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like to this day, I'm using CoverGirl for foundation. And I also try, if I can throw my 2 cents about makeup and cosmetology, I try to shop vegan. I try and pay attention to what goes into the product, what the company kind of stands for. And I know that there's a great support out there, but honestly, CoverGirl is not of those things either. So find out what works for you and your budget will be my thing. And don't shame people.
Exactly. No. I'm curious. Okay. Robin.
Yeah.
My brain just went out of the window. Your mask. Did you make your mask?
Okay, so this is a funny story. So the black part of the mask itself is I bought off of Etsy from a guy who is no longer in business. It's rubber, so it can form to my face.
Nice.
But the lens itself, me and my one friend Nick, we were talking about this, and I'm like, if you look at the comics, all the Robins, the mask, the eyes are whited out. And I'm like, I've seen guys do contacts. I can't wear contacts to save my life. And he's like, well, why do you just not buy a cheap Spider-Man mask, cut out the eyes, and glue them in? I'm like, is that going to work? He's like, well, let's try it. So we went over to his place one day. We cut out the material. We test fitted it, and it worked. And I'm like, you know what? Great.
That is smart. I like that.
And people, I get asked that all the time, like, how do you do it? I'm like, just take the mesh material you get from a Spider-Man mask, cut it into the shape you want, test fit it, and it works. And it's great because it looks good, but at the same time, I can see everything clear as day. But when my parents first saw it, my mom looked at me and went, "Yeah, I don't like that. That's too creepy. Like I can't see where your eyes are." And I'm like, "Oh well."
That's the point of it.
That's the goal.
But I've heard of people using cheesecloth to if they're doing the blank face cosplays, and it's just like that's smart too. And but yeah, no, I like learning new stuff when it comes to cosplay, and I'll have to remember that trick.
Yeah, I mean that's the beautiful. I think I mentioned before, when you're constricted, either budget or whatever, if you're constricted, it forces you into that toddler brain. Like, what do I have around my house that could work? What's in my recycle bin? I cannot tell you how many times I have visited my, not literal, take it to the bin to the curb recycling, but I store things and I'm like, I bet this could be used later. I might be a little bit of a hoarder that way. But anyway, if you're a crafty person, you typically have your hoard of, I can't throw this away because I imagine one day it will be used for something. But there's so many fun ideas, just like our Robin was saying, what's something super cheap that could also work? I cannot tell you how many times I've had that thought, either for my house or running to Walmart, or the dollar store. Mm-hmm. And something just magically, it was aligned in the stars to have something under $5 work,
Yeah.
Well,
and the trick of that is, you look at the shapes, you look at the properties, like, oh, this is something I can see through from one way and not the other. What can I use this for? And that if it's something, if the back of your brain is always doing that, then you'll find an application.
Yeah.
Like a puzzle.
Well, to say what you said, find stuff cheap. Because Robin uses a bow staff. I really wanted a good-looking bow staff, but you can find these expensive ones. I'm like, as a broke college kid, that's not in the budget.
Yeah.
Went to the dollar store, bought a shower rod, took it home, and I weathered it. I weathered it because I do models, so I weathered it. And you know what? Everyone's like, "Oh, that's so amazing! Where did you get it from?" And I'm like, Dollar General.
Yep.
I'm very much a I cosplay on the budget, and Value Village, like all the secondhand stores.
Oh yeah,
like
thrifting is the best.
So
Love
yeah,
it.
And
I
don't
will,
forget the home department.
and around Halloween is when they want to get rid of a lot of their stuff. So
I love
but
The sheets and the curtains and
y'all, like this is a thrift store curtain that was like
Yep.
$1 for both pieces. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, no shame. Go to the
don't
thrift
be afraid
stores.
to.
yeah. I just recently had a prize-winning costume that was like a Renaissance-inspired thing, and the chemise and the partlet of this wonderful sheer white that's got these bits of gold shot through it. It's literally a pair of $3 curtains from Goodwill.
So the point is, everybody,
It's
don't
also
be
all
shamed.
polyester, so I can wash my red body
No.
paint off of it.
Cosplay,
No.
cosplay to suit your needs. That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a lot
All
more
right.
fun to use that
Yeah.
creativity. Well,
And don't be afraid to reach out to us or any other cosplayers, because we will we'll
Yeah.
sit with you
About
and
making, about performing, about where you can find groups to volunteer with. I have this ambition, and I've been saying this for 5 years, and I say it at every panel I'm on in the hopes that somebody will pick it up and run with it, so I don't have to do it. There needs to be a directory of volunteer cosplay organizations, so that anybody can go to this and say, if they're a costumer, they can say, what can I join that's in my area? If they're an event coordinator, they can say, where can I get this character? And I mean, my
I'm going to
personal
work on
website
that,
is 3
Valerie,
years.
for my city.
Yeah.
Thank you for the
Excellent. My personal website is 3 years out of date, so I haven't gotten around to doing it. And somebody once said to me, "You should stop telling people that they're going to steal your idea." I'm like, "Please do. Then I don't have to do it."
Yeah,
Do it.
absolutely, absolutely.
I think that's amazing. I'll talk to my uncle and a few friends I have for Florida. So
Fantastic.
Excellent.
If somebody took that on, I would promote the heck out of it, because you run into people like, "Oh, you do this. I don't know how to get to that. I live in such and such a place, and I might have heard of a group where they are,
right.
but I don't know. It's just what I know off the top of my head. If I can send them here and say, look up your city, this is who you can volunteer with, it would be the
That's
best.
amazing. That's amazing.
All right.
I'll put it on my my YouTube as well.
Excellent. So we're running a little over time, so I apologize to those waiting in the green room for the next panel to start. It happens. So okay, we are sitting at $340 for our fundraiser. Thank you, everyone, for for their hard work, and look at all these cool prizes that you could win.
Ooh.
And all the we're raising money for Valerie Perrine. And here, there's a little blurb that explains it better than I can.
The Multiverse fundraiser is a benefit for Oscar-nominated actress Valerie Perrine. Ms. Perrine is known for her roles in Superman, Slaughterhouse-5, Lenny, and so many more. We've teamed up with documentary director Stacey Souther to raise money for Valerie's medical expenses and other needs. Every donation and every post share gives you the chance to win super prizes. Go to the website listed for details.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for popping in. I appreciate you guys coming up, and I look forward to geeking out with you guys again soon.
Love you guys.
Nice meeting you all. Bye.
All right. So let's bring up the next panel.